What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 109 of Hobby Hotline. Of course, the Tuesday night overtime edition. We are back. Hope everybody had a wonderful holiday weekend. As always, my name is Drew, or the DH, and joining me today, is we've got Yamwax. What's going on, man?
What's up, guys? Good evening. Glad to be here.
And then, of course, we have the one and only Mr. John Newman. What's up, dude?
What's up? I heard that my job was to make you guys look more handsome. So
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Well, here I gotta. I gotta get some. I'll make it better. I gotta get some laundry out of the way really quick. Sorry, but yeah,
you're ready off the rule train in Carolina.
Are you kidding me? Oh my god, I could go on for an hour and a half on that.
Yeah, I think you give him another year. I think the Sam Darnold thing blew up in his face.
A lot's blowing up in his face. I could talk. Yeah. I could take up 3 hobby hotlines on that man right now.
Yeah.
But I hope everybody did have a wonderful holidays. And speaking of football, guys, we'll start off the show. We'll make it a lot more positive as we do go along. But we will start off the show as earlier today. We did get the announcement that they said it was sudden, but as you and I talked about, John, it was kind of something that we kind of thought was going to happen sooner than later. But John Madden, a legendary football coach, and really, I mean, more people that probably don't even watch football know the name Madden, but John Madden passed away today.
Yeah, 85 years old. The last, what I believe was the last most recent interview, and I'm not just making this up.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw it, I said, man, he doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I just said, maybe it's a bad day. Maybe he's a little under the weather, but I said, man, he doesn't look good. And then when they came out with the documentary came out, but they were doing previews for it, leading up to 2 weeks, like, hey, the Madden documentary's coming out showing clips. I just thought to myself, it's almost like they know sort of like because usually you do that documentary when most of the time, not all the time, when someone's not here anymore, that sort of thing, So I got a weird vibe, like people in the know sort of knew something I didn't, if you will. And then the news broke today, 85 years old. I don't know, unexpected. I don't know, but 85 is not, I don't think I'll make it to 85. So, but obviously a legend. And we don't always talk about passings necessarily on this program, but I think when someone of that ilk and stature and that icon of a sport, which this being football, coach, broadcaster, gaming with Madden football.
Well, I mean, people also don't realize, like a lot of people that may not be familiar with the history of football. I mean, John Madden was Bill Belichick with a lot of personality. Like that's who he is. You know what I mean? Like he was the dominant coach of his era. He just happened to be this amazing personality. So, I mean, he is a true legend.
Yeah, and as we get the chance to talk about him here, it just you opened the show saying we don't want to start by talking about something negative, but in a lot of ways today has been a celebration.
Yes.
All over Twitter, the shares have been phenomenal. Clips I've never seen before, clips I'd forgotten about. Him and Summerall together in the booth were just fantastic. And like you said, there's that legendary side of coaching that we didn't all see. Yeah. But many of us, know the game or saw him in the booth, and he was just tremendous. And so it's been a blast. There's a clip of him telestrating on top of Troy Aikman's face, describing how he can't grow a beard, and I loved it. I wish I had a few more minutes to prep here. I would have had a telestrator ready just as a tribute. But I did grab something from home before I came in, and that was my 1991 copy.
Nice.
The first Super Nintendo copy of John Madden's football. And this brings back all kinds of memories for me, and it's just great to see like that classic Madden pose there.
That's absolutely awesome right there. That's a really cool collectible to have because thinking about it, those are the collectibles that I have, are his Madden games. I don't have any cards. I have his games.
Yeah. Raise your hand if you waited at midnight at Best Buy to get the new one, and then stayed up all night and either called out sick to work or came into work like a zombie.
Yeah,
absolutely. So. Yeah, I had a few too many drinks with the guys. I'm just opening this thing up because it's that's one of the things I like just about having a complete in-box thing is you get to hold the old cartridges.
Yeah.
The vibes that brings back, right? So
blow on it, make sure it works.
You gotta blow into it when it's not.
Yeah, that's a tribute right there.
There you go.
We blew one out for John Madden.
Exactly. Exactly.
But you know how many people probably, I mean, we do in this room, and probably most people watching us right now or later on, there's a few people that probably don't even realize kind of what an accomplished coach he was. They kind of gravitated to him, from the booth and in the game. But
boom,
he played too. But more known for from his coaching days on to the rest of his career. And I was watching some of his stuff and just being into content. He's sort of a producer's nightmare and dream at the same time.
Yeah,
because he wasn't staying on script, so the producers are probably, oh boy, John's the chains have come off. But what he did was so great in
he goes off script and he gives you the turducken. And
it just got great rate. So like on one hand, a producer, director sitting on like their hand, just waiting for anything to happen. And 90% of the time it was just good content, laugh out loud type stuff. And probably a guy, be fun to work with someone that in the booth. And, credit to some of the guys like Summerall, like Ann was saying that, it's gotta be as much fun as it is. It's got to be tough too, because one's sort of the straight man, and then you got mad and like not to get cracked up, or sometimes I'm sure they had their moments where they wanted him to be not as funny when they were, but that's what made John Madden,
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, it was one of those things where, that he was a dying breed even when he was there. People were getting away. They wanted a different type of broadcasting. You were getting some of the guys that were learning other ways to make the game exciting. One like my all-time favorite, Gus Johnson, people like that coming into the game and finding different ways to add that excitement and the knowledge into the game. But he really, for announcing, I mean, you talk about announcing. He's one of the most legendary announcers. He's probably done more for that arena than almost anybody. You could argue Joe Buck, but I mean, I'm not even going to get into him. I feel bad saying his name. But, Madden to me, just every single place and every single thing that he did, he was great at, and he left behind a legacy that, like you said today, Yam, no matter what it was, whether it was EA Sports talking about him, if it was former players, former assistants, it didn't matter. They all had these incredible stories and, just an amazing human being that was incredible at everything he did.
Well, I have to say I feel deficient. I feel deficient today in the way that we feel in a lot of these situations where someone leaves us, or sometimes when someone has a breakthrough moment. In this case, we're remembering John Madden. That I don't have his rookie card. I don't have a John Madden card, and I feel like I should. It's something I'm going to go out and seek, and it'd probably be the wrong move to buy it today. I'm going to put it on the list to buy maybe 6 months down the road. Yeah.
But put it on that list. It's going to be one that you're going to look for.
I saw a lot of people posting a few things like, some of their autographed Madden cards, not for sale, not for trade, just kind of showing them off, which happens when someone passes. And then I saw someone ask a question, which I thought was, who's the closest commentator that we have now that's Madden like? And I really, there isn't anyone even close to him. Probably.
Yeah, I know.
You want to say Tony Romo? He can get kind of goofy and off the rails a little bit,
right?
But not like Madden. You know what I mean?
No.
There's really, when even when we talk about players passing, right, whether tragically or older, there's always sort of comparisons. We can make an argument to Madden that there really is no one that close to him comparison wise, like,
Yeah.
because he took a risk. I mean, I'm sure when he first, and he was just being himself. That's his bubbly, joking personality. But like I said, that, is for as long as he lasted. If that didn't go over well early when he first came on, he could have been fired and out of broadcast, and we wouldn't have Madden football games. We'd have who knows who, Tony Dorsett football or something. So, I don't think there's anyone that's in that close of a mold. But if I had to pick gun to head, if I had to pick one guy, I mean, Tony Romo. Sometimes if you're listening or watching the game, he can get sort of goofy and talk about stuff outside the game during the game, sort of like Madden could do. But
it's
I'm not
the same.
Yeah, no, I'm not comparing. Listen, I'm not comparing. Don't misquote. I'm not comparing Romo to man. I'm just saying, well, that's how special he was. That's as close as you can get, and it actually isn't close.
In my brain, it's Romo combined with Charles Barkley. Where Charles Barkley isn't a play-by-play guy, doesn't have the just insights. Well, he's a smart guy, but he's not sitting there breaking down the insights into the game. But you've got Romo, who's just brilliant at that. You're listening to hear him call the plays ahead of time. But then Barkley brings that entertainment and that you never know which direction he's going to go factor. And I think if you somehow merge them, you have something like John Madden.
Yeah. And Canton Card Collector said Chris Berman. I see in the chat. That's a good comparison. Chris Berman, he has done play-by-play, but he's a studio guy more so. But he's probably the studio version of sort of Madden play-by-play. But play-by-play wise, there's no one to that level. And you know what? I don't think there ever will be, because even if someone tries, they'll kind of come across as they're just trying to imitate Madden. It won't sell well. And so I think we will never have another John Madden. And when you think about it like that, it's sort of sad. And but we can always go like Yam said. You can always go on YouTube and clips, and always, like he said, find something you never seen. There's so much of Madden. There's no way we've seen everything. So if you want to have a Madden surfing night, I'm sure you'll find something that you never saw before.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Responsible for some all-time calls, legendary man, and sad news today. But like I said, so many wonderful stories, and the one awesome thing is all that footage, all those amazing calls, all that stuff lives on.
There you go.
I pulled them up there. 1959 tops.
Wow,
that's on the list. That's a great shot too.
That really is. That's a beautiful card. And I love that old school era with the drawn plays on them and everything. Mm-hmm. I think they're great.
Totally.
That is definitely a cool one right there.
Love it.
Yes, absolutely. No better beer commercials ever. Yes, I agree. That 70s card show, he had some great ones. Yeah, he was he was something special. That's for sure. But guys, I guess we'll move on now from Madden and go into a couple of different things. First, we want to plug the show Saturday, big show Saturday. I know it's pretty much going to be an open forum for you guys as always, which we'd love to have you guys call in tonight as well. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. We'd love to hear any of your questions or comments or anything that you do have on your mind. But Saturday, we got an awesome show where it's pretty much going to be a lot of different Hobby Hotline hosts calling in, and we'll take a look back at the year 2021 as a group and some of the big events. It was a wild year, guys, and kind of got us thinking. Nothing happened at all. What am I talking about? But it kind of got us thinking earlier that maybe we should touch on this a little bit from a personal aspect. So I'll throw it right out there. As I said, it was a wild year. It was a crazy year, some major ups, some major downs. But what were some of y'all's favorite moments, or some moments that maybe stood out to you the most in 2021?
Well, for me, I've said this on this show. I've said it on my show. It's a broken record. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And so when that licensing news came down, I think that's that's going to be the story of the year as far as shockwaves go, and it's going to change the landscape of cards as we know it. So that to me, sentimentally, being from Brooklyn, growing up on the Topps brand, that one definitely was eye opening and head scratching and shocking. And I went through all the emotions. I was mad, I was sad, I was curious. I don't know what emotion I left off, but when all the dust settles and now we're a few months from when that announcement was made, we got a couple years here probably to wait, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with it. You can't rewrite history, so as much as I being from Brooklyn and love, it is what it is. Nothing I can do about it. You got to roll with the punches, as they say. So I'm just curious to see where we're going as a hobby. And we've seen some glimpses. We've seen Michael Rubin do some interviews, and Josh Luber with his Unabomber Manifest Destiny page, and that was way too much reading for me. A guy that I can read, I like to read sometimes, but there's a limit. But all joking aside, it's if you're in the hobby and you love the hobby, you got a passion for the hobby. To say you're not curious to see what's coming, I think it's disingenuous. So I'm looking forward to that, whatever that may be. I've said I hope Topps lives on in some form or fashion.
Now, question to you on that, real quick, to both of you on that right there. Topps made some pretty bold moves this week. Putting out starting to put out NHL license stickers. Really putting their stickers on their Topps Now for them now, which means they're going to be pushing it a lot more. And then they announced that they've got, their first basketball cards under a Bowman or Topps brand in over a decade. Also being done on Topps Now, although I think we are going to get some big box releases probably this year. But what do you guys both think, at what Topps is doing? Nip and Lee kind of, much smaller scale. But, what are your thoughts on how they're handling, what was obviously a crazy year for them? They went from going public to who knows? I mean, in a span of a month, in overnight, literally.
Yeah. First, I want to say that I think it's amazing that when you ask John for his favorite moment, you can tell that he's a content creator when he picks the most controversial topic that's out there, because it just gives you tons of stuff to talk about and think about. And I love it. Especially I know how you're conflicted about that some of that stuff that went down, but I'll say when I think about big bold moves like that, I think of a couple of things. I've been in the tech industry for a long time, and one of the kind of a telltale sign that you see is when someone starts to really go huge on marketing. I know a company that had they weren't even that big of a company, and they had a rock concert in their front yard of their business, and were just nonstop giant events happening one after another, and they were sold in 3 months. Sometimes it's to create buzz, leverage, to make someone look like, no, we're gung ho, we're going forward. But
everything's fine here.
They might believe that they really are making a splash and trying to venture into other things too. So we don't know for sure, but it does start to raise my eyebrow. Are they just trying to up their price?
It's funny. Yam said that because that's what I was going to say. I think they're trying to get as much leverage. I mean, they don't have that much leverage, but they're trying to get as much leverage as they can. So if they have to sell, they're trying to get the most bang for their buck. If they just kind of go into fetal position and start crying, that price comes down. But if they kind of make themselves a little bit more marketable, Yam hit it right on the head, because that's where I was going to go. And I agree with you can't be 101%, so 100%. So I think that's what Topps is doing. And if that's what Fanatics and Topps can agree to, and they come up with some sort of sale or licensing agreement, and we still get to see those 5 letters live on in some form or fashion, I'll take it. Again, I'm not defending Topps blindly. I know they made a lot of mistakes. They're sort of culpable in the loss of the license. I want to make that clear. But
Oh yeah,
they had 70 years. That's a tradition. I won't even, like I said, I keep joking about living. I don't think I'm going to live that long. They've done baseball cards that long. So,
right.
there's something to be said about that. Maybe maybe that's part of the problem too. They got a little complacent, a little bit lazy, a little bit unimaginative. And we can get into the whole we can do a whole show on customer service. We're not gonna, but, so they're not off the hook, but still, with all that tradition, I'd still like to see. It'd be a sad day for me, and I think for many others, to wake up and know there's going to be no Topps baseball this year. I'll kind of close it, come around with, and finish off on that note. And hopefully that's not the case.
I completely agree with both of you. Yam, you nailed it. And John, that was perfectly said. I think they are gearing up for that. But the one good thing about it, or one other good thing about it is I do think before they, to do this, I think it might generate some creativity in those rooms. And we might get some pretty cool stuff in the next couple years. And so I'm at least looking forward to that in the short term.
It could be interesting to see if an artifact just comes out of it. Like, hey, do you remember when Topps did this crazy thing? And in 10, 20 years, we remember it, and that becomes collectible out of the blue, like Icy Bear cards or whatever else, some weird set that comes out.
Canton card collector says Topps needs to start doing unlicensed football like they did in the 70s. And Canton, I'd say that there's a very good chance if Topps goes the route that is non-fanatics and goes by themselves, if there's any way that they can do that, then I see them doing that, whether it be the NIL type stuff like they're doing with basketball right now. Even though basketball, they did get in a NBA PA to sign off because we've seen the Dirk autos and everything. So if they can get those licenses, I guarantee you that they're open to those suggestions where 2 years ago they weren't. So, that definitely is a possibility, and I know I'd love to see it.
We're going to see retired players. I think you're going to see players that aren't current, like they're doing with Mano. They have the Jeter deal in place. And so I think they're going to try to do more of that. The NIL couldn't come at a more perfect time for those losing their license, because it opens up a whole new door really to everybody, fanatics included. So we're seeing cards now of 15, 16-year-old kids done already, probably younger. And here's something to think about. Imagine a card, right, where there's only 275 printed, and of a 15-year-old athlete, and that athlete, that 15-year-old, becomes a superstar in whatever sport they participate in. And now you have, we see in some of these cards going for millions of dollars in auctions. Imagine having something like that at an age 15, baby face, maybe some acne on there, signed, 275 print run. Imagine the demand after the fact. We obviously, when you own or buying the card now, you're obviously just speculating. But if that particular athlete hits and becomes a superstar in their sport, imagine the demand for a card where there's very few, and at a young age, and
printed by a real company.
But the interesting part is that we've sort of poo-pooed, college cards, those first cards that come out in college uniforms. And collegiate programs have been releasing their own cards, Tar Heels cards. I went to the University of Minnesota, and they even had card sets of their basketball team that you could pick up. But they never seem to get Credo as like the card to have. But fun XRCs, and especially like you said, John, if they're really low print or low scarcity or big scarcity on the market, you're going to see some of those collectibles. So it'll be fun to see. I'm just really curious to see, like, name, image, likeness, if they're amateurs, if they're high school or college and not getting paid, does that count? But what about the kids that are now going into these pro leagues for basketball that start at age 16 and 17? Do those count as pro cards? I mean, they kind of are, right? They're just minor leagues. So it'll be fun.
Well, that's what I think the basketball market's going to be shifted towards in the next 3 or 4 years. I think basketball is going to go a lot like baseball, and you're going to see just the way, like you said, the NBA is setting up. They want a farm system. They want that. They don't want, necessarily like Major League Baseball where you have to go through an entire minor league system, but they want to develop people. They don't want college involved. They want to handle it all themselves. I could easily see the card market for basketball turning into almost a baseball market where it's almost split into two, with prospect, with maybe putting it under a different name for prospects and then putting under a different name for the pros. Like I can easily see that happen.
Yeah, it brings up a great point with and they did that. They do that here at Syracuse University, not so much recently, but they did basketball cards. I remember Derek Coleman, Billy Owens. Some of you may recognize those names, some may not. I think the difference might be if you see a Topps, a Fanatics, a Panini logo on it, might give it enough provenance to be in demand, rather than Dunkin' Donuts sponsored Syracuse. You know what I mean? I think it'll be a little bit more mainstream enough to be accepted by the hobby. Who knows, right? We're going to find out. But yeah, that's a good point. Like, what will we point to as the first card of a superstar to be, right? Little League. I know both of you guys are dads, and when you play Little League, right? They issue team cards. The photographer comes.
I made ours this year.
So like, if Jude becomes like the next Mike Trout, we can point to that card. But obviously, it's got to be a higher print run than just a family issued set.
Yeah,
but it's going to be the NIL is just opens the doors, and as many doors as open, there's going to be a lot of question marks with it. To go along with it as well.
Yeah, sure. So, Drew, I'll jump to my my memories from this year. And so, Drew, you had asked me to to think about this just a few minutes before we went on. And if I looked a little distracted at the beginning of the show, it was because I was scrolling through Lamim James posts, just trying to remember the best, hilarious moments of the year. And a favorite of his is involved in this. So it's easy for me to say, and it was a favorite moment, was the national Instagram comes to real life. And that was so cool meeting John and many others. But one that rivaled it, I think that maybe more people got a chance to participate in, was back in February. And some of this is wild stuff to think about that was actually this year. So in February, 2 Jordans ended up selling for $700,000 a piece ish, right? I don't remember the exact numbers, but massive sales that seemed to come out of nowhere. The most recent sale before that was what, like 150, 200,000, 250, maybe 250, let's say. And Ken, had just started going live on Instagram occasionally. And it seemed like he was kind of forced into it, but of course he's a natural at it because he loves to hold court. And so Ken Golden would do these lives, and that night the everybody that I knew seemed to be online on Instagram, all chatting about these huge sales that were going down. Jeremy Lee was on with Brett from Stacking Slabs, and like the whole chat was talking about the sales at Golden, not their interview. And I kind of felt bad for them, but it was like everywhere you went, everyone was talking about these huge sales, and they weren't the only 2 big sales that night. And Chris and Josh from Card Ladder were both live and discussing the auctions, and it turned into this giant party. Ken got in there later that night and chatted with them too about it all. And it was just like, it was this huge event. And on top of it, like I was out of town and had prepped basically a party for this night. I had buddies and beers ready, chips and dip, all that kind of stuff. So it just fed into this thing, and we're kind of all still on lockdown. And so it was this giant night, but it wasn't just about euphoria, because it left this kind of sick feeling in your stomach, as in, this doesn't feel natural. This feels like things are getting out of control. And I think we're all talking about that too, and trying to figure out how to process it. And so it was just I love community in the hobby, and for the whole kind of hobby to be together, discussing it, every private chat, all these public chats, live chats. It was really fun, but also brought up feelings about where the heck are we at?
And I think we're seeing, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, but I think we're seeing sort of that correction now kind of come into place. Now, those $1 million cards are still going to sell for millions of dollars. That's not going away. That's for the long haul. But I think, for as many of those $1 million buyers, I think that's for as much as we hear about those sales, I think it's actually a small percentage of the hobby when you look at as a whole. And I think we're seeing some prices come down now, which I don't think is a bad thing. I like to buy. So if you're telling me I can buy some stuff cheaper, or I can just keep paying more money, or, do we like when we go to the gas pump and we see it's 40 cents higher than it was the day before? No, we like to buy it at the best price. So I'm not panicking. I don't think it's a bad thing. I look at it as sort of a healthy thing. And the hobby, what is it really based on? It, right? It's a timing industry. If you sell, you want to sort of sell at the best opportune time, and if you buy, you want to buy at the best opportune time. Sometimes you win those deals, and sometimes you don't. Anyone that says they win every deal, they'll hook them up to a lie detector test. So,
well, no, I completely agree, and I'll go back to the statement I said. It's been a wild year. I think that correction is absolutely normal. When you like you said, GM, you're looking at that and you're like, this is incredible. You're looking at all these sales. I think a lot of other people look at it too, and they're like, whoa, and I think it causes a lot of people, as impressed as they are, also to say, hold on, let's pull back a little bit. Maybe we're getting a little out of hand. So I think that's natural, and I expected it. I think you're going to still see a lot of value in a lot of different stuff. But I think the market correction, so to speak, like you said, John, is wonderful for the hobby. I think it's excellent because the simple fact of, even though we've been on a decline, the analytics have shown that the interest in the hobby has grown. While the prices have dropped, the interest has grown. And so now these new people that are in the hobby, the new participants, as we labeled them a couple weeks ago in the hobby, new participants are now able to get their hands on cards that in February, for example, they weren't able to get their hands on. And so that in itself, I think, is good for the new participants in the hobby. It allows more people in. And I see nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It doesn't happen all in one night. It sort of felt like that in the hobby, a bomb went off, but it wasn't even that. It was that it brought everyone together to just discuss what was going on. So that was so fun. But I agree. I like it too, that we can pick up cards and but like you said, it's a K-shaped market to some degree. I'm sure we've talked about this before, but that we do see those handful of cards, the rare, limited, truly demand is ultimately what it's about. Mm-hmm. The cards that people want and that have rarity associated with them, they've done, they've either flattened out or some have gone up. So there's still those pockets if you're an investor, but it's way more fun if you like to finish off your sets. Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
can't ask if this was apple juice. So here's what I'll tell you: on Saturday morning, it's going to be coffee, and on Tuesday night, it's going to be apple juice. That's
there you go.
So.
Yeah, we had a comment on my big yellow cup earlier. That's nothing too exciting. Just some diet soda. So.
This has coffee in it. We'll leave it at that.
So.
But
another comment, about certain cards in the vintage variety, Koufax, Jackie Robinson. Unfortunately, I can't buy a Jackie Robinson cheap to save my life. That are going to be sort of that dip-proof, market correction-proof. That's always going to be that's been the case since cavemen were doing baseball cards, and so
that was way before the jump in February. That was way before COVID. That was way before any of all this, and it's not going to change.
Yeah. So there's going to be
to say that with a caveat. They're not. They can have bumps in the road, especially things like vintage basketball did get pretty hot for a while. Mm-hmm. And you saw like a PSA 6 Bill Russell rookie sell for $60K. Yeah. And I think most recent sales for that are in the 20s. Yeah. So it can be volatile like anything else.
Did you see he's selling his own from a Bill Russell, the Bill Russell collection?
Yeah. That would be amazing to own.
Pretty awesome.
Incredible.
And piggybacking off what Yam said, I think the basketball market, if we're looking at the four major sports, to me, that's the one that swings the most either way,
yeah,
up or down for whatever, whether there's more people in it, whether it's the overseas market, sort of with their fingers in the pie, if you will. Whatever the answer is, that's the one that both ways can swing down more percentage wise and up percentage wise. It's the one that takes sort of the biggest hit or jump sport wise, and I don't see that changing in the near future, but we'll see.
Basketball is the Dion Waiters of the sports card world.
Absolutely.
Hot or
cool. The Syracuse reference, I like that.
There you go.
I think it does better than that, but yeah, I don't know if I want to compare it to Dion Waiters. It's a pretty great hobby.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll go on with my favorite moment of 2021, and it kind of piggybacks off one of the first things that you said, Yam, and that was talking about the national, but not just the national in general. I'm gonna bring it back to returning card shows in 2021, having card shows return, and how card shows have evolved this year, because not only did they come back, like we all missed them, and we all missed going to the shows where it was just a set up table and a bunch of people and you walked in. They're becoming events, and it's not just the national. You've got the Mint Collective coming up, which is going to be awesome. We'll have some Hobby Hotline members represented there. You've got the Dallas show. You've got all these other shows, Philly, just tons of huge
Syracuse.
shows. Yes, Syracuse. Yeah. Hickory, North Carolina has actually gotten 3 times bigger in the last couple times. But not only just the size, they're doing so much more, whether it be education, bringing the community together, certain other events. It's the evolution of the card show, I'll say, and bringing back card shows was probably my favorite thing in 2021, because I love what I'm seeing in terms of people that are putting out shows instead of just trying to sell some tables in a hotel. They're working more on how to differentiate themselves. Culture Collision, perfect example in Atlanta, another one. Just so many different ways to interact and involve the community and build that community aspect.
Yeah, are you worried about? I saw somebody post. I love to give proper credit. I can't remember the handle or the social media card show fatigue, that we're having so many now that people are going to sort of, as much as we missed it because of the pandemic, put them on ice. Now we're having so many that people are going to be like, enough already. I'm a dealer. I do shows. I really stay pretty much around Central New York now, in my little bit older age than I used to travel when I was younger to the states around New York. But whether you're a dealer or just going to the shows as a consumer or both, are we worried about maybe show fatigue at some point, and event fatigue? I mean, it's like everybody, I feel like everyone's trying to be the national or the next thing to the national, and that's so we have all these people doing these events, and events are great. I'm not knocking, and there's a lot of work that goes into them, so I'm not knocking efforts, but we're just seeing sort of an overload of different type events. And I saw someone else post about show fatigue, and I guess my question's open.
I could see that, but I also guess it's just the way I look at it. I don't look at all of them as must-goes. Like, I just, to me, it's not every single one of these is something I have to be at. I mean, they're marketed that way, but you'd be dumb not to market it that way. So, of course, everyone's going to market it as the greatest thing. But to me, and just the way I view it, okay, some of them aren't for me, some of them are. And, so to me, it wouldn't be show fatigue to me. But if you're someone that's trying to be involved in the heavy trends, if you're one of those content creators that has a camera crew that chases you around all day long and hits every show, yes, you might get a little show fatigue. I could easily see that. But myself,
question for Ryan. think that would be a great question for Ryan. But that kid's young. He runs marathons, so maybe he's not the right guy to
Yeah.
ask. But
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and you're right, Drew. You're exactly right. You go to the ones you want to. To me, the national
Yes.
will always be, unless they really start dropping the ball there.
Oh, yeah.
I think that will be the headliner event. That will be the big ticket main event. Whatever you want to call it, World Series, Super Bowl of the hobby. I've coined it the Super Bowl. I think that will always hold that perch unless they do some stuff that sort of hurts themselves. I don't anticipate that, but but you again, you go to the ones you want. Everyone has a different budget level. I'm at the point now. It's the national, maybe the industry summit, not every year, but once every few years, and because a lot of people I like live in Dallas. One weekend trip a year down to Dallas. And when I get some decent airfare price on a sale or something. And so I think my goal is like 3 out of state events, if you will. So, national Dallas, and either industry summit or something of that ilk.
You nailed my schedule.
I'd be really interested to see how these shows look like in terms of regional attendance. At the Dallas shows, for example, it's a national-ish show. But how many people are coming from Texas and maybe nearby states? That would be me. I'm in Minnesota. So if I was in Oklahoma, I would probably go to I'd probably go to Dallas 3-4 times a year at least, because it's convenient to drive down there. And these big shows, it's not even the money, although that's a factor too. A couple grand between flights and hotels and everything beyond what you're even spending on cards. But then you've got the inconvenience. I'm thinking about going to Vegas, but I've got a big work event until 6 p.m. Friday night, and I'd have to either fly out Friday night or Saturday morning and make it a really tight visit. And I'm like, is that going to be worth it for 48 hours? So TV.
Foul Ball put a comment. The national is the national. That's the problem. I know people complain that it only goes to 4 cities. Those 4 cities being Cleveland, Chicago, Atlantic City, or 3 cities, and and not hitting those on the West Coast, making it a little bit more convenient for them. I agree. There's a lot of logistics. I've had Ray Schulte on the show. We've talked about it on the air, off the air. There's a lot of logistics. There's parking. There's hotel stuff, numbers that they have to meet to warrant the location. But I'd love to see some of those areas. I always think, I'm on the East Coast, but I've never, the furthest west I've been, at least in the States, has been Dallas. I wouldn't mind going further out west. Now, I've been to other foreign countries that I think are further west, but state-wise, the furthest west I've been is Dallas or Chicago. So I wouldn't mind going to California once, Vegas, wherever. And in fairness to those folks, I put myself in their shoes, right? If I lived in California and everything was on the East Coast or the Midwest, I'd be like, hey, what are we, chopped liver out here on the West Coast? Like, I gotta think there's some sort of place that maybe with a few years planning, they can get closer to the West Coast, in fairness to them. I'm a New York City kid, as I've said. Numerous people probably tired of me saying. I'd love to see. I know logistically it's pipe dreaming, but I'd love to see a New York City national. You know what I mean? But we're not going to get that. So Atlantic City is probably the closest we're going to get. But I like to see different parts of the country get that kind of show closer to them. So, I've heard people in California say, I'd love to go to Nashville. I just can't. I can't do it. I can't travel that far. I can't pay that freight. And, I hate hearing that. I like to see everyone have the opportunity to, if not every year, but at least sometimes attend that event.
It looks like this Mint Collective in Vegas is going to be an important event. I don't, attendance is to be determined, but it looks like it's going to be a big event. But it'd be really curious to imagine if the National had been, say, last January, and this Mint Collective had followed it by 4 or 5 months when the hobby was still buzzing like wild. I think it would have had a window to maybe not rival the national, but inch in on it, because there are people that are looking for more of a splash, more of a buzzy event in a splashy place like Las Vegas, that would really promote that event. And we see some of that, but there's just like the buzz around the hobby is a little quieter right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I love collectible. They sponsor Sports Card Nation, full disclosure, but it's a pricey ticket. Like, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, it's the same thing I do with any time I travel. Like, it's going to cost me $1,500 to make this trip. So the first $1,500 I don't spend, or I spend, I'm not even going to technically have a card to show for yet. I know there's samples and you get a grant. I get that. But it's not going to be something me picking something out of a showcase and making a deal with somebody. And that's, even when I travel to the National, I keep that in mind with, hey, this trip's going to cost me this, airfare, room and board, food expenses, and miscellaneous stuff before I even buy that first card. And I mean, that ain't a lot of fun, going to a show and not buying anything. Someone could argue, well, you're going in support of the podcast, and I am, but I want to bring some cards back with me too. There's a podcast because I collect cards too. I was a collector before a podcaster. So you got to weigh what these events cost to get in, airfare, hotel, all that other stuff, and I weigh that out, and I'm there's some of them I just can't pull the trigger on because I can't justify it on my expense report. And sometimes it's a tough decision, and you're living vicariously through others who do go, and that's great. But I got to be smart financially about it as well.
I feel like the universe or the undercurrent of the hobby or something just set things up that the national is supposed to be the national. It might change over the years, but it's nice to have that through line through our hobby. We talk about the legendary national of what was it, 1990 something, the record. What year was that, guys?
1991, I believe.
91.
Yeah, 91.
Yeah, that had the records, and there's all these stories going back. It'd be great if we're still talking about that at the national and this national, in 30 years from now. That'd just be really cool. And we see that, obviously we want to see that through line with a brand like Topps and see that continue. And in a way, the national is kind of the Topps of the hobby. I'm into
I completely agree. And I think that was something that stuck out the most to me this year, at least. So
shout out to that 70s card show. He purchased a 1976 Topps set at the 1991 National. So that's really cool,
awesome.
70s card show.
No, that is cool.
Yeah. So
that's
cool.
Pretty awesome.
And that, those are the things too, the memories, where you got something, who you met. I mean, that's, to me, the events itself sometimes create storylines and experiences and memories. And it's more than just the cards. I mean, that's why we're all here, at least to begin with, and then all that fun secondary stuff, getting to meet everyone in person, knowing where hey, I bought this card there, I got this set there, like John just said. And you can't put a price on stuff like that. I mean, you can. I don't know what that 76 set cost, but I'm kidding. But that stuff is fun too. And sometimes it's we talk about with the cards, and I know I just got on my soapbox about what it's going to cost me before I even buy my first card, and but the fun you're going to have and experiences too. I don't want to like poo-poo that. There's something to be said about those too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and especially the event that we're speaking of right there, especially networking, I think is as well as is a great thing, especially if you're in this industry. Besides just collecting, I think the networking aspect is huge. And that's really what they set themselves up as and set them up for. And I think we're going to get, whether you're a collector, prospector, an investor, whatever you call yourself in this industry, I think you're going to probably find something and that in some of those conversations, it's going to be interesting that you can take away and learn quite a bit. So, I think it's going to be cool, even if you can't make it. And I understand people's, uh, frustration at, major companies being involved in all this stuff. I've seen a lot of pushback from that and everything, and it being in Vegas or whatnot. But, I think it's a pretty cool looking event. We'll see how it goes. But just the innovation in shows, and I wasn't speaking necessarily just on Mint, but things like Culture Collision, things like that, were just amazing events that were a lot of fun, and I enjoyed them and thought it was a great alternative to just the regular card show that you do all the time.
So another event to look back at, another happening that isn't necessarily a favorite happening, but it was going to be stunning. And I think it's going to be something that we talk about for 4 years, maybe at 30 years at that national in 30 years from now. Or I honestly think this is going to be a talker outside of the hobby and, in business studies and case studies at Harvard Business School or whatever, is going to be is PSA's decision just to completely shut down in March of this year. Again, that did happen this year. Feels like forever ago. But just the brash move to do that and creating endless conversations that continue to this day that rippled out from that. So that's just a major happening we can't ignore.
No, I completely agree with you there. That was and I do agree with you. I think it should be studied. I think it was one of the most interesting. I think their entire year from the beginning to the end should be studied because it's quite interesting. It was a bold move. It was a very interesting move. But I will say, from my couple submissions that I've sent since all that stuff has happened, I have had personally nothing but phenomenal results. And so, but yeah, definitely looking back on it, I think you can attribute a lot of that also to, definitely one of the factors of the slowdown in the hobby as well, because people weren't, churning out, group subs, and they weren't so excited to get them back as fast, everything, I think that contributed a lot to the slowdown in the hobby as well. But the shutdown's definitely something that'll be remembered for years.
I still have like a 18 card order. I think it's over a year now. I'm just hoping I get the cards back before the players retire. So or die, God forbid. But it's crazy. It's really, Yam makes a great point with that. It sort of goes against what we learned in business, right? Like, you should try not to raise your prices or shut down as much as you can, right? Like if Burger King says, hey, the Whopper instead of being $3.79 is now $18, right? How many Whoppers are they gonna really sell? Or they just say, hey, we're not selling Whoppers anymore. We're selling Super Whoppers, and they're $18. And you get them whenever we feel like the cook and the burger flippers will bring them out to you. And it's a weird business practice, but it worked for them. They got buried and they had to catch up. I get asked all the time, I'm sure you do, Drew, probably you do, Corey, as well, will we ever see PSA $20 again? And I don't know. I don't work for PSA. If you're asking my opinion, and those that do, I say I wouldn't bet on it. I hope so, as someone that does like submitting to them and SGC and sometimes back it, but probably mostly BSA and SGC. I like to see that level again, but I don't know if they want that level. I don't know if that's really their target audience anymore. I don't want to speak for them, but I just really, the thoughts in my mind is maybe they don't want that class of card, if you will, which I don't think is a big deal, but just the amount they would get at that level, I don't know if they want that sort of problems. Like Yam said, how do you eliminate it? You shut down some pipelines and open others that are a little more lucrative and more expensive to do business under. So I don't know. We're going to see. You're down to $50 on a limited basis. You can't just send all your cards. I like grading as much as the next guy, but there's only certain cards that to me $50, $100 that I'm gonna send in that fit their bill, and I'm gonna wince even at the same time when I do it. So
Right.
John,
we'll see. I always answer that question like just an opinion. I don't have any more knowledge than you do. I'm not guessing it's going to occur.
Right.
I don't know.
John, I feel like the one thing that we should have is they should send a patch or a pin or something that we wear as a badge of honor. We have those long subs that say my sub had a birthday.
Yes.
And it'd be hilarious. Someone should just make them because that'd be great. The other thing is we should all have a Whopper right now because I don't know about you, but I'm hungry.
Oh, I'm starved.
But you see these but you do see shutdowns at a macro level right now, right? Like maybe it's Starbucks, maybe it's Burger King. They don't have enough staff to really serve their customers right. And they know if they do stay open, the one or two people working there is going to get totally burnt out. And they make the business decision that it's not worth the economics to stay open past 7 that night or whatever. And so, you do sort of see that in other businesses, but this was such an extreme example that it's wild.
Yeah.
So back to the pricing with PSA, we all want to see that $20 to $30 level come back. But I think they can't roll it out yet. And they've really realized it with this $50 limited drop where you get maybe a couple of your cards graded for $50 if you're in the collectors club or through a group sub. There's been a lot of lashback on that. Why are you guys grading these cards at $50 when my cards have been there for a year, right? And it's a fair question. And they answer it, hey, we're allocating 80% to the backlog, 20% to new. But it's kind of like eventually a business has to start taking in new revenue again. And so it's a tough balance for them. And so I get why they don't just suddenly open the floodgates and take in $20, $30 cards again, because they'd get buried. So I don't know. I think it's, been pretty strategic. And I do believe that we will see that $20 to $30 value tier come back sometime next year.
No, I completely agree. I think we're going to see something along those lines. I don't know if it hits 20, but I do think it will be around that area. I don't think it'll be for a while, but I think eventually there'll be something in place along those lines. What that looks like and where we are, who knows? But I definitely see him, around that area. 20, I'm not so sure about, but that $30 area, somewhere around there possibly. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be an interesting year for PSA. There's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of stuff I think you're going to see moving forward, and it's going to have a huge effect on the hobby.
True. You were just talking about some of the recent moves that you had some thoughts on.
Well, yeah, I mean, just everything with Card Ladder, with the purchase of Card Ladder, Chris and everybody and Christine going over there, and just purchasing Gentleman earlier, but then also rebranding their magazine, PSA Magazine. That to me screams nothing but, I mean, they didn't just get Card Ladder, they got the people involved in Card Ladder as well, who are also content creators. So that shows me that PSA, and I expect PSA to make a massive move towards content this year. Rebranding the magazine, I think it's going to stay the same for a little bit, but I think they're going to phase it into something new. I wouldn't be surprised to see an online aspect of it as well. I think you're going to see a lot more content from them, and I think it's going to be from some of the people that I just mentioned. And I think there's a lot more moves that they're going to be making, but I see them really branching out and trying to be looked at as not only a grading company, but also getting that content out there. Just a lot of moves being made in that marketing and content area.
And people are going to say, hey, instead of doing a podcast or doing some videos, how about sending my cards back? That's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
There's a balance of scales here. So, where they put, how much they do, and they're always going to get that backlash. I get that. But if they start doing a bunch of other stuff outside of grading, people who have I'm not saying even me with my one order left, but other people have a lot more that are going to say, hey, put the camera down, put the mic down, start grading some stuff and get not just my stuff, but everyone's stuff, including my stuff, and get them back here. I don't need to see, you're on enough other programs
I agree. I agree completely. I just see the moves being made, and it screams to me that they want to have the appearance, at least, of something more than grading. They want to control some of the content, and I think they want to establish some sort of program where they're able to deliver their message themselves. And the first step in doing that is building a show. And then you're able to control your own narrative. And that's just kind of what I see going on there. But we'll see what happens. That's literally, like you say, John, I know as much as anyone else. But when I look at some of these moves that are being made, I see that for PSA in 2022. And I'm just waiting until the announcement comes, personally.
We've seen the ramping up of their social media posting already, really higher level of polish and professionalism on everything they post on Twitter. They're interacting, commenting on other people's posts. They never did that. It was just, hey, we'll throw a few things out there. And so you see them setting the table for it. And then buying Card Ladder, which I think they are going to integrate that data platform, make it a value add for their services. But you're right. I think that content was a huge piece of it. Being able to have guys that love to go out and speak at events and on the regular shows, have great production quality. And so it just all fits in. But we do hear those guys out here just, shouting in the
wind.
But
shout out
PSA,
to that
right?
70s card show for the best damn comment of the year. God, that was funny. Sorry. I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay.
But you got guys like that who are just like, they, PSA, they really gummed up me too. They gummed up so many of us, and maybe plans we had for our cards. I miss my cards. They go off to PSA, these value subs, and they're gone for a year. I want to get my freaking, rock card back or whatever, right? Like my Dolly Parton card that's there. I want those cards back, baby. But so it sucks, and I get that. But this, if you look back from that, where we're going to be at a couple of years, if you have cards that you want to maintain their value and you care about, that at all, you're swimming upstream if you're not at least considering PSA. And I think that current is getting stronger with these moves that we're talking about, because grading is a trust and a brand business, and trust, that once they start churning out, they've doubled their staff already and they just keep hiring, they're going to get caught up in time. And they're going to be a well-oiled machine. It's going in that direction. The other side of it is brand, and they've always had that, and it's maybe bigger than ever. The delta of, Lamim James again was just showing that today. A PSA card that sold for $350, where the BGS 95 sold for $69 or whatever. Right? It's this huge growing delta, and that's all about brand and creating content and having all this polish. It continues to build that brand, and you're gonna struggle to fight against that.
Yep. Completely agree. Well, guys, it is 10 o'clock, so I guess we'll wrap up today's episode. We got, once again, guys, if you missed the beginning of the show, this Saturday we are going to have an open forum type show where a lot of different members of Hobby Hotline will be calling in. We'll be looking back some more on 2021 as a group, and we'd love to have you guys join the chat as well. Let us know what were your guys' thoughts, and what did you guys think of 2021? But
it's open mic night, as we call it, all hands on deck, and I'm the only one officially scheduled for this thing.
So I'll be here for you.
All right, I was gonna say, don't let me be the only. You don't want me talking for an hour, and I already talked now. So my goal on Saturdays to just be more of a moderator and take everyone else's
Chris
stuff.
Paul. Chris Paul, not Devin Booker. I got you.
With all hands on deck, and it's literally New Year's Eve. It's December 31st, so it's officially the last day of 2021. I'm sure a lot of people have some insights and personal feelings about their hobby year. We want to hear about them. So,
absolutely. Well,
and if I dip, and I hope not to be the Dion Waiters of the crew. Hot and cold, baby.
By the way, he never started it. He was always the sixth guy.
He was. That's true. Yeah. Hey, that kind of fits. But no, it is an honor to be on with you guys. The chat was on fire tonight. It was a lot of fun. Looking back at this, it's been a really fun year, whether, you got the chance to ride these crazy waves we talked about early on, or get the chance to start collecting again. And I can't wait to continue in this great hobby.
Absolutely well said. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. And once again, tune in this Saturday. But until then, guys, have a good one. See you then.